listening to LSU Daily with Matt Musso, your home for all things LSU sports.
Off and running here on another edition of LSU Daily. Welcome in. Glad to have you with me, and I am glad to be back. Missed the end of last week. Had a wedding to attend and some festivities around that. Great time had by all. Congratulations to one of my best friends in the world, Dustin, and his new wife, Katie. But, boy, did I miss some stuff while I was out. We're going to talk about all of it here today on LSU Daily. LSU and Brian Kelly, they promised they would be aggressive in the transfer portal, and boy, howdy have they been. The first week, you get 5 commitments out of the transfer portal. You have another target on campus Monday beginning his visit that we'll talk about at a position of need. They are moving fast and furious early in this portal cycle, just like they said they would do, and it's a really good thing. So I know everyone's really kind of said their piece on the 5 that LSU's gotten. I haven't yet, so I'll go through again, give a thumbnail on each of them. We'll talk about the guy on campus here Monday, and also Emery Jones declared for the NFL draft while I was away as well. So a quick thought on that to wrap up today's show. Follow me on social media, at Musso Matthew, Twitter X. You can find me on Facebook. Of course, I'm on Instagram as well, at Matthew Musso 1. All of that greatly appreciated. Let's dive right into it. And we'll start with the most recent commit for LSU out of the transfer portal. And boy, it was a huge one at the biggest position of, well, I shouldn't say the biggest, at the most important position in the game of football. That is quarterback Michael Van Buren from Mississippi State. You should all be very familiar with Michael Van Buren, following the SEC as closely as we all do. True freshman season just wrapped up at Mississippi State, was forced into action thanks to the injury to Blake Shapen. Played in 9 games for the Bulldogs, started 7 of those, again, in place of Blake Shapen. Out of high school, was ranked as high as a 4-star recruit. That was by ESPN and Rivals, 3-star by the other services. But when you saw the kid play this year, being pressed into action, he was really, really good at times. Really, really good. He flashed against some big-time competition. We'll get into some of those games momentarily. But this is a guy who, just wrapping up his true freshman season, has 3 years of eligibility left. He'll come in, he'll sit behind Garrett Nussmeier with his 1 year, and then you look for Michael Van Buren to potentially take over the reins, in the role of starting quarterback at LSU. We talked about it plenty. You had to wait for Garrett Nussmeier to make his decision, and that's when you would know what you were looking for at quarterback. You lost Bryce Underwood to Michigan in the high school ranks. You had to fill that need. Bryce Baker decided to stick with UNC, who LSU was in on, along with Penn State. But with the hiring of Bill Belichick up in Chapel Hill, or Chapel Bill, I guess as everybody's calling it now, Bryce Baker decided to stick there. So you had to go to the portal. Baker was the top uncommitted quarterback left in the country, and he recommitted to UNC, so now you had to go into the portal. But you knew Garrett Nussmeier was coming back, so you knew you didn't need a starter. You could get somebody who could come in, sit, learn the system, and hopefully be ready, and you got a dynamite prospect in that role in Michael Van Buren, and a guy who could not only come in, sit, and learn the system and all that, but is also a proven backup now. Like, you have a guy who started 7 games in the league as a true freshman. That's massive. We talked about some of the games that really stand out. Georgia. Boy, Georgia really, really stood out for him. On the road, in Athens, he goes for 306 and 3 touchdowns in that game and really showed off the arm. He really showed off the deep ball against the Bulldogs. The film of it kind of made its way around social media late last week, and I mean, you could just see the accuracy on the deep ball in that game. It was very impressive. Against Arkansas, by far his best game of the season, 71% completion, 309 yards again. And then against Ole Miss, who the Rebs have a pretty good defense. We all believe that. He threw for 280 and a touchdown. He did have 2 picks in that game, but 280 and a touchdown against that defense, that's saying something. So, all in all, you get a guy who threw for over 1,800 yards and scored 16 total touchdowns. And that's the other important caveat here. Michael Van Buren not only has the arm, he's got the ability to run as well. The rushing statistics aren't going to blow you off the chart from his freshman year from a yards perspective, but he scored 5 rushing touchdowns over the course of the season in his 9 games. So that is a facet of his game that LSU can look to capitalize off of here going forward in his career at LSU. So that's a huge get, man. I mean, that really is massive. And I love it from every angle, where he's a guy who can come in and sit, learn the system, but also if he needs to be pressed into action, he's done that already because he did it at Mississippi State as a true freshman. You've got your quarterback of the future potentially and a capable backup here in Michael Van Buren. That's a slam dunk, in my opinion, for LSU as they head into the 2025 season out of the transfer portal from Starkville. Big get. The others were names that we talked about plenty in the weeks leading up to decisions. Gave you the names that were going to be on campus, all of that, and LSU ends up with 4 more commits at positions of need. Let's start with Bauer Sharp at tight end because, well, we know how big of a need tight end was and still is, honestly, for LSU. Bauer Sharp was the Tigers' first commitment out of the transfer portal. That came Friday. And you look at Sharp, we've talked about him, started his career at Southeastern in Hammond, signed as a quarterback, and then transitioned to tight end as a redshirt freshman over there with the Lions. In his 1 season at Oklahoma, he started all 12 games and was the leader in both receptions and yards for the team. So this is a guy that can absolutely catch the football, but when you look at him from a blocking standpoint, you like that aspect of his game as well. He shows the complete tight end. 6'4", 243, very similar build to Mason Taylor. This is a really big get. It's only 1 year of eligibility left, but this is a really big get in your biggest position of need. Now, you're not done there. LSU has got to go get another tight end. Disappointing news, Luke Haas ends up at Ole Miss. LSU had him on campus for a visit, all those things that we know. That stings a little bit, but there's still other capable tight ends that you need. Bauer Sharp should be your number 1. We'll see what they do with Trey'Dez Green, if they want to move him back to tight end or leave him at receiver. And you have J.D. LaFleur coming in. But what you definitely need is another body at tight end as well. If you can get another stud, by all means do it. But you absolutely need another body at that position because your numbers are still extremely, extremely thin. So keep an eye on that as we go forward throughout the rest of this portal cycle with LSU. But Bauer Sharp, another huge get for LSU, addressing their biggest position of need. Next, we'll stick on the offensive side of the ball. We'll talk Berrien Brown. Obviously, we've talked plenty about him. Comes from Kentucky, played 3 years up there in Lexington. At the time he signed as a top 100 commit, 4-star consensus, he was the second highest ranked recruit to sign with Kentucky in the history of their program. And when he was catching passes from Will Levis, it went really, really well. Catching passes from Brock Vandergrift here in 2024, it did not. You saw the numbers really dip, and he looked for a better opportunity. That hopefully comes at LSU now that he is committed with the Tigers. He was easily a top 10 recruit out of the transfer portal as well when it comes to receiver, top 10 receiver, I should say, out of the transfer portal as well. What stands out and why I love this get so much for LSU, he can fly. He can stretch the field. That's what you're looking for ultimately here if you're the Tigers. Who can stretch the field? That was the dimension of your offense that was missing all season because Chris Hilton was hurt. You finally saw that against Oklahoma when Hilton was really kind of back to 100% and was able to get behind the defense and the rust was worn off. We'll see what Chris Hilton decides on what to do, with his future at LSU. But Barry and Brown coming in is huge. Is he going to be your true number one? I don't know. But what I do know is he can stretch the field consistently. And that's something LSU was grossly missing for the majority of the 2024 season. Barry and Brown corrects that issue coming in for 2025. So that's an awesome get. Again, you're looking at a guy there, over 120 career receptions, over 1,500 total receiving yards, and 11 touchdowns. He's proven. That's a huge get. And, oh, by the way, he is a special teams menace. 5 kickoff return touchdowns. That's an SEC record. Keep in mind, get Xavier Thomas, too. You're going to have 2 dangerous return men if you're LSU. Massive get there. Flip it over to the defensive side of the ball for our last 2. We'll start with Jamari Butler, the edge out of Nebraska. We talked plenty about him. When you look at Butler coming in, should have 2 years of eligibility remaining. Was a freshman during the COVID season at Nebraska in 2020. He did not play. And then in 2021, played in 2 games and redshirted. So he's played 3 seasons. But with that COVID year and having redshirted, he should have 2 years of eligibility left. This is a huge get. We talked about edge being a position that LSU really needed to go after. 6'5", 260. Butler's played in plenty of games, 37 of them to be exact, in his time at Nebraska. Has Jamari Butler, 16 of those games are starts. He started 10 out of the 12 games in 2024. You're looking at a guy, 65 career tackles, 17 career TFLs, 7.5 career sacks, and you bring in a experienced veteran player who can start immediately for you and replace either Braden Swinson or Savion Jones. I don't think LSU's done at this position either. They obviously need another one in this portal cycle because again, you're losing Savion Jones, you're losing Braden Swinson, Deshaun Womack entered the transfer portal. They are really high on Kalaj Cobbins. I love that. You got Damian Shanklin coming in, but those 2 guys are inexperienced. You need another body. At edge rusher if you're LSU. I would expect to see them go out and sign at least one more here. Maybe they don't play much. Maybe it's just a rotational guy. But you definitely need another body with some experience because with Cobbins and Shanklin, that's going to be a first-time player if they get on the field early here at LSU in 2025. Last but certainly not least is Jakeem Jackson. And we've talked about Jakeem Jackson ever since, even before the portal officially opened, when he announced his intentions because of the relationship he had with Corey Raymond, signed under Raymond at the University of Florida. And you knew the connection was there. And lo and behold, he does, as expected, commit to LSU. Big get, and it's hard to not feel great about the LSU cornerback room right now. It really, really is. It is hard not to feel great about that. When you look at DJ Pickett coming in, you have Ashton Stamps returning, who should be a starter for you, obviously, next year. Aiden Anding coming in, P.J. Woodland returning to LSU after it being reported that he's going to enter the transfer portal, now back with the Tigers, pulling his name from that, and that's a huge get. You've got experience, you've got youth, and you've got depth at the cornerback position right now if you're the Tigers. A little bit, obviously, more on Jakeem Jackson. 6'1" is Jackson, 189 pounds. Appeared in 13 games for Florida. The majority of those as a freshman, 11 of them. He started the first 2 games this season, but an ankle injury sidelined him for the remainder of the year. So you're getting a starting cornerback out of the SEC here in Jackson to maybe potentially take a spot for you or just provide plenty of depth as well. Either way, you'd imagine he's going to be on the field. They can mix and match and do a lot of things. So it was the nation's number 3 cornerback in the country when he came out of high school back for the class of 2023. It's a huge get. And again, it's just hard not to feel really good about LSU's cornerback room and where it sits. You saw plenty of development this season from a guy like Stamps, even from a guy like P.J. Woodland getting plenty of time throughout the year. And now Corey Raymond's just done what he does. He's done what he was brought here to do, I should say. and that was recruit. You get the number one cornerback in the country in Pickett, number one cornerback in Louisiana in Aiden Anding, and now you go out and get Jakeem Jackson, one of the top cornerbacks in the transfer portal, and who is the number 3 overall cornerback coming out of high school. Massive, massive gets. So those are your 5 as of this recording. All of them huge wins for LSU, and all of them at positions of need for LSU. And again, you're not done at tight end. You're not done at wide receiver. You shouldn't be done at edge rusher. Like, you need more. So keep an eye out. They're going to keep going. One position we're still waiting on them to nab is safety. And they have a safety on campus Monday to start his official visit. He's from South Florida, University of South Florida, I should say. Tawfiq Byard just finished his sophomore season, took a massive, massive jump. And that's what was huge and stands out about him. As a freshman in 2023, you're looking at 5 total tackles for him. And those came in 2 games. Just 1 game in the regular season, and then he played in the bowl game. Now you fast forward to 2024 for Byard, and a guy who played in all 12 games, registered 54 tackles, 2 sacks, an interception. He took a massive, massive jump from his freshman season to his sophomore season. 6'1", 200 pounds. Originally out of York, Pennsylvania, but spent the last 2 seasons at South Florida on campus Monday to start his visit for LSU. We'll obviously keep you posted on anything that comes out of that. We've talked about the need at safety. Sage Ryan officially enters the portal late last week as well. So now you know. Yeah, you definitely need somebody else there. Obviously, Jordan Allen has entered the portal at safety. Kylan Jackson has entered the portal at safety. So, I mean, you've lost plenty of guys there. And it was the weakest part of your team, the weakest part of the defense for sure. Last season for LSU, you have to get better. If they think Tawfiq Byard can come in and start immediately and make them better, I'm all for it. The jump he made is certainly encouraging. We'll see if LSU can go ahead and reel him in. All right, last thing here to get to. Emery Jones officially declared for the NFL draft. Obviously wish Emery Jones all the best of luck, man. There were some rumblings that he might return and kick down into guard. Ultimately, he had to make the decision that was best for him and his family. He did that. Emery Jones had an awesome career at LSU. That guy came in with a lot of hype out of Catholic High in Baton Rouge, earned his way onto the field as a true freshman to start for LSU, and then never relinquished that spot from here on out. I mean, those 2 tackles, that tandem of Emery Jones and Will Campbell will go down in history here at LSU. We'll see where he lands in the draft, but, man, a great career and part of a really nice run for LSU, including an SEC championship game appearance, 2 10-win seasons, things of that nature, and I mean, played through a lot. It's disappointing to see him go, but again, decision he had to make, best for him, his family. He did that. And he'll be off to the NFL. We wish him luck in his career. See what LSU does at tackle. That's something, obviously, another spot you need to look at in the portal, as well as the guys that you have on the team that they're really high on. Guys like Tyree Adams, guys like Weston Davis. So the offensive line is going to be something really, really interesting to watch. When you look at a guy like Emery Jones, probably going to bump down to guard at the next level. It's kind of always been the word on him. We've played audio from Jim Nagy on this show before about that being the path most likely for Emery Jones. So we'll see how it goes. Man, would you have loved to have gotten him back? Absolutely. That would have been a veteran piece that returned, but it wasn't in the cards, and you wish Emery Jones all the best and a great career, as said, here for 3 years in the purple and gold. You love it when those local kids stay home and live up to the hype, and he did it. So major tip of the hat to Emery Jones, and best of luck in his pro career. All right, that's going to wrap it up here for today. Glad to be back with y'all. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Follow me on social media, and we will be back here next time for more on LSU Daily.